you who the committee interviewed. This is who went up to Capitol Hill and testified. They include, for example, the former press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, officials Ian Sams, Andrew Bates, Jeff Zients, I've talked about him, chief of staff, Neera Tanden as well, Ashley Williams, a special assistant, Ronald Klain, who was a chief of staff to the president at one point, Steve Ricchetti, Mike Donnellan, Bruce Reed, Anita Dunn. This was part of the senior advisors, some of the inner circle there. Now, the former president's doctor, Kevin O'Connor, Joe Biden's former chief of staff, Anthony Bernal, and former deputy chief of staff, Annie Tomasini, these three here, they pled the fifth when they went up to the Hill. We'll get to one of the top Democrats on the committee in a moment, but first tonight, he is the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, Congressman James Comer, who sent that report over today to the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, and as you can see here tonight, Chairman Comer, joins us live here on the Hill. Thanks for being with us tonight, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So I read through this 91-page report, Chairman. It's basically 2/3 of it is about the president's mental fitness at the time and the quote-unquote cover-up that you describe. And then the back third, give or take, is about the use of the Autopen. The term cover-up is mentioned in there, I believe, north of 60 times. Mm-hmm. But yet you have not accused anyone of a crime. Congressman, do you believe that there needs to be a further investigation on whether crimes were committed in the Biden White House?
Yes, we do. And look, the president was shielded from everyone. Even the senior staffers admitted under oath that some of them would seem less than once a month that worked in the White House every day. Ian Sams, who was his press secretary, who gave daily press conferences during the Biden influence peddling investigation that I led, during the Robert Hur investigation. He gave daily briefings implying he was talking to President Biden. But when we got him under oath, he admitted he only saw President Biden in person
but is that a crime?
In 2 years. It's evidence of a cover-up. Every president in history communicates multiple times per week with their inner circle, except this president. Now, why is that relevant? It's relevant because this president, during the last 3 months of his presidency, during the lame duck period, just went haywire with the Autopen. They signed all these executive orders. They signed all of these pardons with an Autopen when 75% of the time, according to the White House records, Joe Biden was in the White House. There were no records. There were no notes. There was nothing in the National Archives that would demonstrate that Joe Biden played any role whatsoever in the decision-making process. There were inconsistencies with the testimony from all the different staffers on the use of the Autopen process. But one thing's consistent, the every single staffer that used the Autopen, even the staffers that authorized the lower level staffers to use Autopen, none of them spoke directly to Joe Biden. And that's a concern, and that's why we think that Pam Bondi, based on our evidence and hours of testimony and all the emails, even the emails from the Merrick Garland Department of Justice that warned the Biden administration they were using the Autopen excessively on legal documents, we believe that there was a cover-up of the president's health. But we asked Pam Bondi to use all the tools in the Department of Justice toolbox to investigate this further, starting with Dr. O'Connor, the White House physician, who pled the Fifth Amendment.
So I hear you. Here's what President Biden, a spokesperson, said. Quote, President Biden made the decision of his presidency, made the decisions of his presidency. There was no conspiracy, no cover-up, and no wrongdoing. Congressional Republicans should stop focusing on political retribution. It doesn't seem like, Congressman, that there is a smoking gun example that you guys have put forward on the Autopen. Is there? What would you say to President Biden's team?
I would love to have a conversation with President Biden. I would love to do it on your show. Look, that's a statement. Why doesn't he come out and say that? It's the same thing. They shielded him from meeting with his inner circle. The White House physician, when asked under oath, were you ever told to lie about Joe Biden's health? He pled the Fifth Amendment. I mean, look, we all saw his decline. And if you want to see how bad a shape Joe Biden really was for an extended period, look at the Robert Hur video. That was the one time when Joe Biden, during the last year of his presidency, had to sit down for several hours and attempt to answer questions during that Robert Hur investigation. And it was pitiful. I mean, anyone who watches that video and listens to the audio and see how confused he was and how he couldn't answer questions. This is not a guy that could be able to go through thousands of pardons and determine whether or not they were worthy of a pardon or commutation. That's what the law states. That's what the Constitution states. Only the president has the power to pardon, not a staffer. He cannot delegate that to another staff. So we think the evidence is overwhelming that Joe Biden was in a mental decline. We wanted to press the White House position, Dr. O'Connor, on this, but he pled the fifth. That's why we referred him to the D.C. Board of Medical Association.
Yes, you have indeed, and I'm going to get to that here in a moment. On this issue of presidents and transparency, right? Because at the end of the day, you, like I mentioned, you used the word cover-up, and I guess sort of the opposite word of that would be transparency, right? We heard President Trump, or saw him on Air Force One, President Trump, just the other day, and he revealed that he had an MRI, and he didn't give any more details beyond that. Do you feel that the president deserves, or that the American public, rather, deserves an explanation from the current president when you talk about a 79-year-old president and receiving MRIs on exactly why he needed that and what was done?
I think that the American people deserve transparency on the health of a president if they're 42 years old. It doesn't matter how old they are. That is something you give up being president of the United States. You give up your health privacy rights. It's our right to know what kind of physical condition the president of the United States is in. And I think that you should be transparent. One difference in Trump and Biden is he walks out and talks to the press and answers questions. He may not answer them to everyone's liking, but there is dialogue every day with the press when he makes a pardon, whether we agree with it or not. And I don't agree with all of President Trump's pardon. He makes a statement, whether you agree with it or not, that he made the decision to pardon that particular individual. That's not the case with Biden. To this day, Joe Biden has never done an interview or given a statement on any of those pardons. And I mean, that is not how the process works. The president of the United States is the only one that has the authority to grant pardons. Joe Biden himself, in the one interview he's given post-presidency, told the New York Times that he wasn't involved in all the decision-making. He delegated that to his staff. That right there implicates Joe Biden. That's not how the pardon process works. Only the president has the ability to grant a pardon.
I told our audience, you know what we do here, Congressman, here from both sides. So I want to get to the other side of the aisle. He is the chairman, though, Congressman James Comer, top Republican on the House Oversight Committee, with us tonight here.